Hello there, Fáilte Macharja Golair. You're very welcome to the Mythical Ireland Library. I'm Anthony Murphy. This is Live Irish Myths, episode number 192. 8 more episodes to the big 200. How are you all doing? I hope you're in good form today, this evening, this morning, this afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and that you're having a great day. We are live streaming. Well, I am live streaming simultaneously on. I'm going to move that back. I do apologize for the amateurish nature of the setup. No assistance on this TV program. No floor manager. We are simultaneously live streaming on Mythical Ireland YouTube, which is youtube.com/Mythical Ireland, and on the Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Mythical Ireland. If you are dropping in, please do say hello. We will, of course, give you a lovely warm welcome, as always. Lots to talk about tonight. We are going to be looking at the myths of Greece and Rome. Sorry, I didn't have the book ready. Wow, you know, you're getting old when it takes an effort to reach up to a bookshelf. Oh, Janie Mackers. Yesterday, myself and my family were at Tato Park. You may have seen the post on, I think I had it on Facebook and on Instagram, the one that was called Meeting Cuchulainn, and the giant Cuchulainn, and I think it was Scáthach and his hound, and what a fabulous introduction to the biggest roller coaster in Ireland. Yeah, I did. I went on the Cuchulainn. 30 seconds into it, instantly regretted it. I mean, it was fun and it was terrifying, a mixture of both. Lovely day out with the family, and what a spectacularly adrenaline pumping ride that was. Just unbelievable. And to be honest, it felt like it was never going to end. Yeah, you're going up, you know, at the beginning, and it goes up and up and up and up, woo, click, 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 really slowly, and you're kind of up above the landscape, and you look, this is great, and then you just go, whoo! To be honest, I don't know whether I'd do it again or not. I think that tells you. Anyway, Saturday, I was in Sligo. More about that in a moment. Let's say hello to a few people. Helena Breen is the first of the greeters tonight. Hello, Helena. Welcome back to Live Irish Myths. You're very welcome to the library this evening. Should also say that the sun is kind of at setting point now. It's very close to setting. We can really feel the autumn coming in. It's not going to be too long before we're broadcasting in darkness. Well, not in darkness. Have the lights on. Although with the energy prices going up all the time, maybe I'll light some candles instead. Alan Hoskins is in Ballina, Killaloe, and Tipperary. Hello, Alan, and a very good evening to you. Annette Peard is in the house. Hello, Annette, up at Tara. Great for you to tune in. Always a pleasure to see you. Janet Moran, good afternoon, Janet. I hope you are keeping well. Helen is watching from the Black Hills of South Dakota. Yes, indeed. Greetings and a happy afternoon to you. Lucas Siccardi is in Italy. Hello to all our Italian friends. Ciao. Buona serata. I do know a couple of focal os Italian. Brilliant stuff. Wayne Bird is in the house. Hope you and the good folk are well. And what a lovely gentleman, Michael Quirk. Well, I want to talk about him in a moment. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Anya Ryan. Hello, Anya. How are you this evening? Hope all is well in County Meath, I think. John Main is in Belmullet in County Mayo, where it's a warm evening. Looking forward to an enlightening Hellenic evening of goddesses, gods, and mythology. Yes, I saw your comment about the Artemis earlier, John. I think that launch was scrubbed, was it, due to some sort of a fault or a leak or something? You definitely don't want to launch a rocket if it's leaking. Archaeoastronomy Database, whose tie, we're now at another 16th division of the year, halfway between Lunasa and the autumn equinox. Yeah, every 3 weeks there's a division. It's fantastic. And thank you for the reminder. Rex Fortenbury is in the house. In the swamp today. We'll catch the replay. That's fine. And very nice of you to say hello, Rex. For the record, we're saying hello to Rex for the video that he can watch later on. Everybody wave at Rex. Mandy McCurl is watching on the beautiful Isle of Mull, where it's a nice evening. Well, I'm glad to hear it, Mandy, because, you know, let's be honest, it doesn't always be that nice, Can you see across, can you see a good way across the sea? Usually if you can't see 10 feet in front of you, it's like a typical evening. Anne McCallum is in the house. Hot and sunny at the moment in southwestern Ontario, but the wind is a-blowing and rain with possible thunderstorms in the forecast. But wine is at the ready for part 3. And yes, if the thunderstorms roll in, you can always drink yourself to oblivion and forget about what's going on outside. I shouldn't encourage that kind of carry on, and I know you wouldn't, Anne. You're far too sensible a lady. Porrick O'Comiskey is saying hello from Listener Willie. Porrick, are you on the hunt for more megalithic art, or do you live in? Hang on, no, you don't. I know where you live because you told me where you live. Yeah. Brilliant. I'm so glad you could join us, and please do tell us of your latest escapades. Porrick discovered some previously unknown megalithic art recently in Dundalk at Lisnawilly in Dundalk in County Louth, the sister town of Drogheda, the constantly at war sibling rivalry. I didn't say that. Joan is saying, evening, Anthony and the Tua. Not staying long, just wanted to say hi. Say hello to my nephew, Enda, who works at Tato Park. If you ever meet him, best to all. Actually, my son works at Tato Park. So I'll ask him when he comes home, do you know Enda? And brilliant stuff. Well, good evening to you, Joan. Great to see you. Keep well. Keep the good side out. We're always thinking of you. And you're always, always very welcome to the library here anytime you want. Adina Sparks is in the house. Good afternoon to you, Adina. Hope you are well. Barbara Murphy is saying hello from Tucson, Arizona. Wonderful to be here. Well, it's always wonderful to welcome another Murphy into the I was going to say the shack. That's what the radio hams call the place in the house where their radios are located, the radio shack. This is an office, a library, a radio shack, a sort of relaxing and TV watching room. It is many things. Janet Moran is in Boston. Janet, I hope everybody in Boston is keeping well. Anne Scott Doherty is here. Wish I was in County Clare as we are currently under a level 1 evacuation due to the rum fire in our area. Oh dear. Stay safe, Anne and Bill, and hopefully that won't come too close. Fingers crossed for you all. Sandra Boothroyd is in the house. Good evening, Sandra. Eamon O'Brien is also here. Looking forward to the film on Michael Quirk from Sligo. I think a lot of people are, and I knew they would be, but sure, look, isn't he a star in many ways? Brendan Byrne, it's hard to believe how quickly the night draws in. Glendalough will soon be shrouded in darkness. Good evening, all. Sorry to read that in a sort of, I was going to say a Tolkien-esque sort of scene voice there, Wayne is saying hello, and so Joan is saying hello to someone else. Mariana Dunn is saying hello from Kent Narrows on the Chesapeake Bay today. Well, a very good afternoon to you, Mariana, and thank you for joining us. Yvette Tillema is in the house. We are watching you from the hospital and visiting, not a patient. Well, thank goodness for that. But I hope whoever you are visiting is well and in good form. Gordon Farrell is in the house. Hello, Gordon. And I'll be talking to you in the next few days, I hope. Great to see you. Kelly Kelly is in the Pacific Northwest. A very, very good evening to you, Kelly. How are things? And it doesn't seem too long ago since I met you. And that is also up to date with the comments. I wanted to say that I had the most enthralling day in Sligo on Saturday. Left Drogheda at 6:30 a.m. Passed out along the Boyne Valley where the mist was shrouding Douth, and I could see Newgrange and Nouth. Wanted to stop to fly the drone, but I had a 3-hour journey ahead of me, so I didn't. Spun across the country, and coming into Athboy from Navan, I could see out to my right in the distance the hills of Loch Crew, Slieve na Caille, Hags Cairn, etc. And eventually made it past Carrow Keel and Ballygawley mountains into Sligo town, where I was meeting, and of course I could see Queen Maeve's Cairn. So what I'm trying to say is, in the journey on Saturday morning, I passed by all 3 major complexes. The Sligo, obviously, complex, the Loch Crew complex and the Brunabonia complex. What a joy in one day to see all of the major monument complexes from the Neolithic. Yeah, so I spent a day in the company of my good friend Grant Wakefield. Grant is a filmmaker who I was involved with in 2009 and 2010. He made a film called Ancient Skies, and I wonder if somebody could share. I can't, for some reason, I can't share links into the comments. So perhaps somebody would share the link, grantwakefield.com. That's GrantWakefield, grantwakefield.com. Or if you want to have a look at his work, that's where to do so. Anyway, in 2010, I think it was, he made what was called a full dome full dome movie, which was to be shown in planetaria, to be shown 360, all captured with wide angle, 360-degree wide angle fisheye lenses, and all the most sumptuously captured time lapse footage of all the major megalithic sites of Britain and Ireland and further afield, and just absolutely just extraordinary. Great honor to be involved in that and to be interviewed for it. Anyway, Grant and I have kind of kept in touch over the years, and last year he moved to Ireland, and so he's more conveniently located. Well, we went to Sligo together, and we spent a day in the company of the most amazing Shanachie, Michael Quirk, a former butcher who in 1988, having spent years carving meat, decided to close, or to not to close because the shop never closed, but he decided to change from carving meat to carving wood. But he had already been carving wood for years and had a good talent for it. But he's the most amazing storyteller and raconteur. He's very entertaining. He's very self-effacing. He's a rare gem. I've heard a lot about him. I've heard a lot of people refer to him. I never had the chance, so I just had to, absolutely. And I want to say publicly thank you, Anna Liffey, for sharing that link. I want to publicly say thanks to my good friend Judith Nyland. Judith has appeared on a couple of Mythical Ireland podcasts and is a good friend from near Seattle in Washington State. And Judith, is a regular visitor to Michael's shop, and she sort of broke the ice and said, "Why don't you?" And she said to Michael, "Would you mind if my friend Anthony comes up with a camera and gets some of this wisdom down?" So the result will be a film that will last probably about an hour and a half. There's probably 2 hours of material there. It may even stretch out to 2 hours, and I promise you, every single moment of it will be worth watching. Let's just say it's like a conversation episode, except for I hardly say anything. Okay, there's times when I'm asking questions, but I'm just sitting there listening to the man, enthralled, and then watching people coming in. There's a clip. There will be a clip of an American couple who come into the shop, and he made a piece for them, as he seems to do for visitors. He asks you, "What's your favorite animal?" and he carves the animal onto a piece of wood, and then and carves your name on the back of it. Just the sort of character that you just couldn't make up, and there's no plasticity about it. None of it is contrived. This man is 100% the real deal. He's a storyteller from the ancient world. His knowledge of Irish mythology, first of all, puts me in the shade, and I'm serious about that. I'm not just saying that. His knowledge is incredible. I mean, I don't remember the detail in Toynbo Frech, which we read on a couple of episodes of Live Irish Myths, and he knows the thing intimately, but he also has the insight into the meaning of the stories. The Dower Coo, which is a dark, the Dower Coo is actually a water dog, or water hound is how it translates literally. It's a word for the otter, but in mythology there's a mysterious creature of the water which is to be feared. But Michael says you don't defeat it. It actually can help you. It stems back to, it kind of flows back to Jungian psychology and the water being the unconscious, and that the fearsome creature isn't always something to be feared, and certainly not something to be killed. Incredible insights. And at 82 years young, this, I don't know, just to be in the presence of someone like that, it's just extraordinary. There's a glint in his eye. He's like a young man in an older man's body. He's in Chernanog. He's just, he's clearly enthralled by the stories. He's telling the stories to people coming into the shop. He's talking as he's carving. The shop has this wonderful old world feel about it, not at all contrived. It hasn't had a renovation probably for decades. There's sawdust and wood chippings around the place, tools and pieces of wood, and yet it's just so filled with charm. If you're in Sligo town, Michael's shop is located in Wine Street, which is sort of in a very central part of the town, or a fairly central part of the town. Sligo's not a huge town anyway. Oh man, do yourself a favor. Go in that door if it's open, and say hello to the man and have a chat with him. You just will not regret it. I'm just going to go back before we start reading. I just want to make sure that I haven't missed, because there's a lot of comments flowing up the screen there. And yes, I have missed. Rathcrohan, yes, Joan, that is on the Mythical Ireland agenda. Absolutely it is. So stay tuned. Somebody asked, am I paddling canoes? Oh my God, this is all right. There are a lot of comments. I do. Let me. Chesapeake Bay, I had that. Yvette Tillum, I said hello. Joan Gordon, I said hello to Kelly Nichiali. Yeah. Are you paddling canoes? Well, if you're up a creek if you're up a certain creek, make sure you have the paddle with you. Virginia is saying hi from, is it Encinitas? Is that how you pronounce that? In California. A very good afternoon to you. Astro is in the house. Banach the All, August Tufane. Susan Johnson is in Colorado, in Frederick. Hello, Susan. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to those who shared the Grant Wakefield link. Adrian Beglin is in the house. Hello, Adrian. A very good evening to you. Yvette says that the patient says many thanks from across the ocean. Well, our very best wishes to them. Donna Ferrer is glad to be here live. We're always glad to see Donna Ferrer in the house. Hello, Donna. T says hi. Cuppa for anyone? Maybe? No, terrible joke. I'll get my coat. Tom King is in the house. Hope all in good fettle. Looking forward to story time. All in great form, Tom. And yourself, I hope that you are recovered from your fantastic weekend. Katie Brogan, I'm having trouble with my sound. Hope that's on your end and not on mine. Pardon me for saying that, and that it's not everybody who's affected. Burr Whelan is in the house. Hello, Burr. Good to see you. Somebody's asking about an episode of about the Fir Vullig. I'm pretty sure we did. We just certainly did the different strands of Laura Gowalla, the Book of Invasions. You can do a search on the YouTube channel, and if there's something that's missing, please do let me know, and we will do an episode on it. Salov says, exhaustion got me. Sorry, I'm late. That's all right. I had a 40 winks this evening, just strictly between you and me now. No one else is to know that. I had to go and lie down for 40 winks because I was a bit tired after, Saturday turned out to be, I got up at 5:30 a.m. on Saturday. I didn't get to bed again until 1 a.m. on Sunday morning. But then when you go from Drogheda to Sligo and back in one day, that's generally how it happens. Mark Gordon is in the house. Hello, Mark. John McNally did a wonderful tour of Ishnok a couple of weeks ago with, Tristan? Gordon Farrell wants to know, where is the shop? Oh, yes. I presume I've answered that already, but it's Wine Street, W-I-N-E, Wine Street in Sligo town. Yeah, indeed, Donna. I think it's going to be, I know it's going to be, it is special. I've looked at the footage. It's something really special. We had 4 cameras, And so that brief clip that I shared on YouTube today as a teaser, that's the sound from the camera. But we actually did have Michael and myself wired with microphones, so it's all done professionally lighted, four cameras and lapel mics. It's going to be fantastic. The man is a living legend. Absolutely, he is. Anna L is in Balbriggan. Hello, Anna L. A very good evening to you. Mandy McCurl loves Sligo town, by the way, and it's very enchanting. Michael Quirk says that Sligo is the most. Well, he says fairy is a poor word. It's an English word. It's the most she place in Ireland. So there you go. Karima, strange to catch you when I'm actually in Ireland. Well, there you go. Well, a very good evening to you. I hope wherever you are in Ireland, you're having a great time. Name of the shop too, says Gordon. It just says M Quirk on the sign above the shop, but it has the Triskel either side of his name. How appropriate, huh? Carmen is saying hello from Atlanta. By the way, if you Google Michael Quirk woodcarver Sligo, Google Maps will show you his exact location of his premises, and it'll give you the air code as well. Kate O'Neill says salutations. Oh, Fort Loriga. Salutations. Oh, Gundaloo. Drihid Aha. Patricia McTague is in the house. Hello, Patricia. Oh, my word. Just when I thought the comments were done, it's like there's a whole new massive screen full. Tarini Pendleton is in Laguna Beach in California. Very good evening to you. And Ali is in sunny Arizona. I'm not sure how I should even attempt to pronounce GSIL. But a very good afternoon to you. Master Dex is first time sitting down of an evening and being on time for the live show. Hello from Kilkenny. Well, a very good evening to all of the people of Kilkenny, but especially yourself, Master Dex. You're very welcome. Have a seat and enjoy the show. Right, we are ready to progress with our exploration. And this, again, is from The Myths of Greece and Rome by H.A. Guerber. And tonight we are starting at chapter 4, which begins with Athena. So I hope everybody's comfortable and that you're all suitably attired, whatever that happens to be. I mean, it might be a bath or a dressing gown. You might be smoking a pipe. You might have coffee beside you. You might have a whiskey beside you or a glass of wine or something. But I'm picturing you all lounging, very comfortably seated. Perhaps with a blanket if it's a little bit nippy, or maybe you're in your shorts and your t-shirt if it's very warm. Maybe you're wearing your Panama hat, and maybe you've got one of those ridiculously big pipes that your man Hans Landa had in Inglorious Bastards, or whatever. But the main thing is I have a picture of you all being very comfortable. That's the main thing. The full Irish is in the house. Another fine day on the sod. Yes, indeed. We are having a lovely autumn, or a lovely beginning to the autumn. Long may it last, because the winter, as you know, is long enough. And the days are shortening, but it's still warm and it's still sunny. It's beautiful. By the way, on the way home from Sligo, I stopped for an hour and a half at Carrowkeel. I captured the most sumptuous drone footage of Carrowkeel. I am so looking forward. I'm sorry, folks, but that also will be Patreon only for a while. So if you want to see all this stuff, you have to become a Mythical Ireland patron, because you know what? See this? This is how it all happens. This is how the equipment and the costs are afraid. All of the costs that are involved in making these things. Robert Scally is in a sweltering San Diego. So there you go. This man does not have a blanket or a shawl. He is definitely. Robert, I hope that you are suitably dressed. Rosemary Mercier is, in terms of light clothes instead of heavy clothes. Rosemary Mercier is sneaking in. That's fine. We were just about to start. Wow. How's the calendar coming? Almost there. Thank you for the reminder, Donna. Almost there. I expect the calendar to be printed in the next fortnight. And I will have a link on the website available for pre-ordering very soon. But thank you for the reminder. Right, I think we'll go ahead. This is Athena. Although immortal, the gods were not immune from physical pain. One day, Zeus suffered intensely from a sudden headache. This is a thunder god. Yeah, I think if I was throwing thunder around the place, I would have a headache too. And summoned all the gods to Olympus to help him find a cure for it. Well, ibuprofen would be a good start. Paracetamol, maybe, codeine. For their united efforts were vain, however, and unwilling or perchance unable to endure the racking pain any longer, Zeus bade one of his sons, Hephaestus, cleave his head open with an axe. Yeah, if you've got a bad migraine, folks, remember one of the best cures: cleave your head in twain with an axe. Now, we could ask Brian Boru how that went. I don't think that ends well. You know? the dutiful god obeyed. And no sooner was the operation performed than Athena, brackets, Pallas, Minerva, sprang out of her father's head, full grown, clad in glittering armour, with poised spear, and chanting a triumphant song of victory. And this is from Shelley, from his awful head, whom Jove brought forth in warlike armour dressed, D-R-E-S-T, I love that, golden, all radiant. Yeah, Astro, I too still suffer from migraine occasionally, but as a youngster, I had migraine at least once a week, and sometimes I had to go to bed for 24 hours, and on rare occasions, 48 hours. It was absolutely horrendous. I sympathize deeply with anybody who suffers from bad migraine. Kilcullen's seaweed baths in Enniscrone. There's a plug from Mandy. I take it you've tried it, And Patricia is reminding us that this does actually sound a little bit like a scene from the film Alien. The assembled gods recoiled in fear before this unexpected apparition, yes, I'm sure, while at the same time a mighty commotion over land and sea proclaimed the advent of a great divinity. The goddess who had thus joined the inhabitants of Olympus was destined to preside over peace, defensive war, and needlework, to be the incarnation of wisdom, and to put to flight the obscure deity called Dullness, who until then had ruled the world. And this is from Pope. Ere Pallas issued from the thunderer's head, Dullness o'er all possessed her ancient right, daughter of chaos and eternal night. Athena, having forced her unattractive predecessor to beat an ignominious retreat, quickly seized the scepter and immediately began to rule in her stead. Apologies. Not long after Aesculapius, a Phoenician, came to Greece, where he founded a beautiful city in the province. Sometimes when you read something, you put the emphasis in the wrong place, and then you realize the sentence is totally wrong unless you reread it. Not long after, Cecrops, a Phoenician, came to Greece, where he founded a beautiful city in the province since called Attica. All the gods watched his undertaking with great interest, and finally, seeing the town promised to become a thriving place, each wished the privilege of naming it. A general council was held, and after some deliberation, most of the gods withdrew their claims. Soon, none but Athena and Poseidon were left to contend for the coveted honour. Well, I'll tell you, if you're naming anything in the modern age, definitely have a council and put some sensible people in a room. Do not put it to a public vote, because wasn't there a cruise liner that ended up being named Boaty McBoatface? Because this was this was the name put forward in a public poll and voted for by the greatest number of the public. So definitely don't do that. To settle the quarrel without evincing any partiality, Zeus announced that the city would be entrusted to the protection of the deity, who should create the most useful object for the use of man. Raising his trident, Poseidon struck the ground, from which a noble horse sprang forth amid exclamations of wonder and admiration. Catherine Woodruff, you are late by almost half an hour. And as it happens, we've only just kind of recently begun, so it's not such a big deal. I hope it's a big whiskey. That's all I can say. I hope it was worth it. His qualities were duly explained by his proud creator, and all thought it quite impossible for Athena to surpass him. Loudly the onlookers laughed, and scornfully too, when she, in her turn, produced an olive tree. But when she was told, but when she had told them the manifold uses to which wood, fruit, foliage, twigs, etc., could be applied, and explained that the olive was a sign of peace and prosperity, and therefore far more desirable than the horse, the emblem of war, they could but acknowledge her gift the more serviceable and award her the prize. To commemorate this victory over her rival, the goddess gave her own name of Athena to the city, whose inhabitants from that time forth were taught to honour her as their patroness. A Catherine, Joan, a Catherine is never late. Anto Baggins. In a town called Cellphone, yes, indeed, his cell phone towers. It was a floating bridge, says Hugadarn, who I didn't know was here. You must have snuck in earlier on. Didn't announce your presence, by the way. Duly noted. Hugadarn late. Even at Zeus's side, Athena often aided him by her wise counsels, and in times of war borrowed his terrible shield, the Aegis, which she flung over her shoulder when she sallied forth to give her support to those whose cause was just. And this is from Homer. Her shoulder bore the dreadful Aegis with its shaggy brim, bordered with terror. There was strife, and there was fortitude, and there was fierce pursuit. And there was the Gorgon's head, a ghastly sight, deformed and dreadful, a sign of woe. The din of battle had no terrors for this doughty goddess, and on every occasion she was wont to plunge with the utmost valour into the thickest of the fray. Poets describe her as being blue or grey-eyed. These warlike tastes were, however, fully counterbalanced by some exclusively feminine, for Athena was as deft with her distaff as with her sword. In Greece there lived in those olden times a maiden called Arachne. This is something to do with spiders, isn't it? Arachnophobia. Anyway, there you go. I'm late. Lol, says Hugadarn. So you're very welcome all the same. Don't mind me. Arachne. Or Arachne, I will say. Pretty, young, and winsome. She would have been loved by all had it not been for her inordinate pride in her skill in weaving and spinning. Weaving and spinning a web, no doubt, a web of deceit. The World Wide Web. I'll stop now. Arachne, in her conceit, fancied that no one could equal the work done by her deft fingers. So she boasted far and wide that she would not hesitate to match her skill with Athena's. She made this remark so frequently that the goddess finally was annoyed and left her seat in high Olympus to punish the maiden. In the guise of an old crone, familiar themes here, folks, she entered Arachne's house, seated herself, and began a conversation. In a few minutes, the maiden had resumed her usual strain and renewed her rash boast. Athena gently advised her to be more modest, lest she should incur the wrath of the gods by her presumptuous words. But Arachne was so blinded by her conceit that she scorned the well-meant warning, saucily tossed her head, and declared she wished the goddess would hear her and propose a contest in which she would surely be able to prove the truth of her assertions. This insolent speech so incensed Athena that she cast aside her disguise and accepted the challenge, which is a great phrase often used by our good friend Ongoba Tom King, when somebody says, "Can you make me one of those?" Challenge accepted. Both set up their looms and began to weave exquisite designs in tapestry, Athena choosing as her subject her contest with Poseidon, and Arachne the kidnapping of Europa. There you go, Patricia. I know of someone who named their daughter Arachnid. No, don't say it, Anthony. Don't say it. Don't, because you will insult somebody. Had she got spare legs? Stop! I said it. I apologize. It won't happen again. Stop. Take a breath. In silence, the fair weavers worked, and their webs grew apace under their practiced fingers. Or maybe she has hands that have hairs on them and she can climb up walls. Sorry, I apologize. In silence, the fair weavers. I'll get serious now. In silence, the fair weavers worked. I can't, I'm sorry. And their webs grew apace under their practiced fingers. The assembled gods, the horse, the olive tree, seemed to live and move under Athena's flashing shuttle. And this is from Spencer. Amongst these leaves she made a butterfly with excellent device and wondrous sleight, fluttering among the olives wantonly, that seemed to live so like it was in sight. The velvet nap which on his wings doth lie, the silken down with which his back is dight, his broad outstretched horns, his hairy thighs. The spelling is amazing. His glorious colours and his glistering eyes. Hairy thighs is spelt Hayrie for hairy and Thies thighs. Brilliant. I do apologise. So there you go. It turns out Arachnid loves to crochet. She's a bit of a weaver. Well, fascinating stuff. Does she spend a lot of time on the web? Never mind. Sorry, apologies. Arachne, I'll continue. Arachne, in the meantime, was intent upon her swimming bull, against whose broad breast the waves broke, and upon the half-laughing, half-frightened girl who clung to the bull's horns while the wind played with her flowing tresses and garments. And this is from Tennyson. Sweet Europa's mantle blue unclasped, from off her shoulder backward borne. From one hand drooped a crocus, one hand grasped the mild bull's golden horn. Must have been castrated. Nobody calls a bull mild if he's complete, if you know what I mean. Let's be honest. The finishing touches all given, each turned to view her rival's work, and at the very first glance, Arachne was forced to acknowledge her failure. To be thus outstripped after all her proud boasts was humiliating indeed. Bitterly did Arachne now repent of her folly, and in her despair she bound a rope about her neck and hanged herself. Athena saw her discomfited rival was about to escape, so she quickly changed her dangling body into a spider and condemned her to weave and spin without ceasing, a warning to all conceited mortals. There you go, folks. If you become too boastful or conceited, chances are you might be turned into a spider. I know. Patricia, don't encourage me. Definitely don't. A little fly landed on my glasses. It's like, go and fly into a spider's web. Apologies. Athena, the goddess of wisdom, was widely worshipped. Temples and altars without number were dedicated to her service, the most celebrated of all being the Parthenon at Athens. Only the ruins of this mighty pile now exist, but they suffice to testify to the beauty of this temple, which served in turn as temple, church, mosque, and finally as powder magazine. Yes, I did read that right. Statues of Athena, a beautiful, majestic woman, fully clothed and armed, are very numerous. The most celebrated of all, by the famous Phidias, measured fully 40 feet in height. Festivals were celebrated in honor of Athena wherever her worship was held. Some, the Greek uh, Panathenaea, for instance, only every 4 years. Others, such as the Roman Minervalia and Quinquatria, every year. This is interesting. A festival held in honor of Athena every 4 years sounds a little bit like, doesn't it? Fesh Chauro, which was once every 3 years, and a little bit like the old Aenochs, which generally held in honor of a female deity, like Taltu, the best known one. At these festivals, the Palladium, a statue of the goddess, said to have fallen from heaven and to have been carried off by the Greeks among the spoils of the Trojan War, was carried in procession through the city, where the people hailed its appearance with joyful cries and songs of praise. There you go. Kathy May Deo has joined us on our lunch break. A very good afternoon to you. Kathy May, hope you're having a great day. Patricia says she's 12 now and she gets it. She thinks it's funny. I wonder, would she appreciate my my humor? Yes, indeed. And this chapter is chapter 5, and it's called Apollo. No, it's not about moon missions, folks. Just relax. The most glorious among the gods and the fairest to look upon was Apollo. In brackets, Phoebus, Helios, Cynthius, Pythius. God of the sun, of music, of medicine, poetry, and all the fine arts. He is thus invoked by William Drummond, a Scottish poet of the 17th century. Hang on, I just need to. I hear Saskia yelping and just want to let them know. She may need to go out to use the outdoor toilet facilities. It could be that she's yelping because somebody's eating. Somebody is eating in the kitchen, and she does tend to yelp, as in, "Give me some of your food." This is he is thus invoked. This is Apollo. He is thus invoked by William Drummond, a Scottish poet of the 17th century. Phoebus, arise and paint the sable skies with azure, white, and red. Give life to this dark world which lieth dead. Spread forth thy golden hair in larger locks than thou wast wont before, and emperor-like decor. With diadem of pearl thy temples fair, chase hence the ugly night, which serves but to make dear thy glorious light. The winds all silent are, and Phoebus in his chair, ensaffroning sea and air, makes vanish every star. And immediately we're into the story of Latona, which obviously involves Apollo in some way. Dreamweaver, says Patricia. Yes, indeed. Yes. Sean Black in Chicago saying the sign of Leo. Joan says, any relationship, Anthony? Between what and what? Sorry. You see, I only see the comments about 2 minutes after you actually post them. So I'm not sure what that reference is. Any relationship, Anthony, between what and what? Maybe you might flesh out that question, Joan, and I will attempt to answer. And as usual, I'll probably botch it. Apollo was the son of Zeus and Latona. Before he and his twin sisters Artemis, Diana, were born, their mother was driven forth from high heaven by the relentless jealousy of Hera, who sent a huge serpent called Pytho to pursue her. Python, anyone? The unfortunate Latona could find no resting place on the face of the earth, for Gaia, dreading the wrath of the Queen of Heaven, would grant her none. But at last Poseidon took pity on her and caused the floating island of Delos to come to a standstill in the Aegean Sea, and there the goddess gave birth to her twin son and daughter. Even then, the persecution of Hera was not at an end. Latona was doomed to leave her island refuge and go forth as a wanderer once more. In the land of Caria, she was insulted by some uncouth peasants whom she asked to give her some water from the pool round which they were sitting. But Zeus changed them all into large green frogs to punish them. But even the wrath of Hera could not avail to keep the mother of Apollo and Artemis lonely and outcast forever. In time she came to be adored, together with her brilliant children, the sun god and the moon goddess. The temples in her honour were built at Argos and Delos and in Egypt. The story of Aesculapius. Aesculapius, I think I would pronounce that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Aesculapius, I think, is how I would say it. Part of the sun god's childhood was spent in the land of the blameless, quote, blameless Hyperboreans, unquote, whom we met in the first chapter of this book. From his youth, he was the most beautiful of all the gods. His radiant head crowned with laurel leaves, a skillful archer and charioteer, a poet who could draw the sweetest music from the seven-stringed lyre to accompany his songs. From time to time, he looked with favour at some maiden of mortal or semi-mortal birth. Such were Clymene, the daughter of Phaeton, and Coronis, the mother of Aesculapius. Chiron, the most learned of the strange race of beings called centaurs, was chosen to teach and train the young Aesculapius, who, pardon me, I'm terribly sorry, still obviously need to catch up on some sleep, who, when he grew up, became a physician of marvellous, almost miraculous powers. The equivalent of our good friend Dean Kecht, Sláinte. This is water, by the way, just in case you're wondering. Where was I? I've lost my place. People travelled from far and near to seek his aid, never in vain. Once he is said, much to the annoyance of his grandfather Zeus, to have restored a dead man to life. Lazarus, anyone? Temples sprang up in his honour, and for many centuries sick folk would make their way to these temples, there to be tended and often cured by the priests of Aesculapius. Often all that was needed was to sleep for one night in the temple courts, or a touch from one of the sacred serpents which were kept there. Interestingly, the idea, serpent and healing, is there in mythological terms, and then somehow the serpent ends up becoming representative of the devil and evil and Satan in the Christian Bible. It's a strange transformation. And the serpent on the staff, of course, is the symbol of pharmacy, or those dispensing medicinal aid. Zeus, who was, like Hera, of a jealous disposition. Yahweh, anyone? Thou shalt not have any other gods before me, viewed with misgiving the honours which men were paying to this great master of the healing art, and at his request Pluto hurled at Aesculapius a thunderbolt which ended his life on earth. Apollo, furious with Hephaestus and the Cyclops, who had forged the fatal thunderbolt, shot his silver arrows at them to avenge his son. But Zeus would not permit those useful craftsmen to be harmed, and to punish the god for his deed, he exiled him for 1 year to the world of men, dooming him during that time to serve some mortal there below. Wow. Sounds a little bit like, doesn't it? Punishment, like, sort of serving a mortal. Sounds almost like what the Fomorians did to the Dedanans when Bress became king, high king, or king of all Ireland. Sean Black in Chicago says that all things are mind. Ascension requires an inward journey. Yep, couldn't agree more. Also, to realize that the allegories and the metaphors and the parables of mythology are not often to be taken literally, and to understand the symbolism of them. And by the way, Michael Quirk, the woodcarver in Sligo, is a man who deeply understands the metaphors and the symbols of mythology. What an amazing man he is. Peter in Monaster Boyce wants me to spell I skull happiness. It's Aesculapius, which is AE. Oh, I know this. I know this. I know this. I know it. It's there, right? There's a little mouse running around in the filing cabinet right now, searching for the word. What do you call a letter which is actually two joined letters? The A and the E joined, like encyclopedia. The A are actually connected. What's that called? Not. Is it a colophon? This is the worst thing about live TV. You just don't get a chance, you know? No, it's not a colophon. Is it? It's the other one. Sorry. Give me 1 second, Peter. Okay, nobody has answered that yet. That's okay. So Aesculapius is Aesculapius. 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 And if anybody has that word, please. Oh. Ligature. Is that what it is? Yeah. Or diphthong. That's the one. Diphthong. Thank you, Maureen. But a ligature isn't entirely wrong either, I think. The diphthong is the sound formed by the combination of two vowels in a single syllable. Whereas a ligature in topography is a ligature occurs where two or more graphemes or letters are joined to form a single glyph. Examples. Oh, sorry, it's ligature is the better one, I think. Examples are the characters AE and OE used in English and French. So it is ligature, yeah. But I love that word, diphthong. Oh, man. Yes. Ligature. Thank you. Yes, indeed. But I do dearly word. I just think diphthong is one of those, it's like we come up with the strangest words, don't we? So the next section is about Admetus and Alcestis. Maureen is saying Falch wrote to somebody, Robert Scully, as a letter. As a letter of the Old English Latin alphabet, it was called Aesk Ashtri. A ligature, yes. Rosemary is suggesting I'm going to be graded on the spelling and that I can do it. You wouldn't want me to be spelling the names of Greek and Roman deities. I'd be much more comfortable spelling the names of Irish deities, and even there I'd probably make a few mistakes. Apollo descended from Olympus and entered the service of Admetus, king of Thessaly. Well, I suppose, look, if you're going to be sent down from the heavens to serve a mortal, it might as well be a king, somebody important, who gave him charge of his flock. Oh, suddenly I'm not so excited. Grazing on the banks of the river Amphrysus. This king soon learned that his shepherd was no ordinary watcher of sheep, and he loved to listen to the songs with which the exiled god whiled away the long hours by the river. Now it came to pass that King Admetus desired to win the hand of Alcestis, daughter of Peleus, which had been promised to the suitor who should come in a chariot drawn by lions and boars. Wow. No man's going to get my hand unless he comes with a chariot drawn by lions and boars. Which is an interesting combination because I would suspect that the lions would eat the boars. But anyway, it sounded an impossible condition. But with the aid of Apollo, the king fulfilled it and won his bride. Not long after Admetus, let's forget about the idea of matrimonial bliss and of people being wedded who are actually suited to each other, and who have similar personalities, perhaps, and similar interests. No. Whoever can ride a chariot hauled by lions and boars will get the girl. Not long after Admetus was sick unto death and his immortal herdsman pleaded with the three fates. Sorry, I read that wrong. Not long after, Admetus was sick unto death, and his immortal herdsman pleaded with the three fates to spare his life. This they agreed to, only if someone were found to die in his stead. There's always a catch, isn't there? Yeah. We'll let him live, but you have to choose someone else to die instead. How's that? To the surprise of the king, none of his bravest warriors, none of his most eager flatterers proved to be willing. Then Alcestis stepped forward, and though her husband was reluctant to accept her sacrifice, the gods took her instead of him. Just as the whole court was lamenting her death, Heracles arrived, and on learning the cause of their sorrow, agreed to wrestle with Thanatos, in brackets, death, in order to decide whether or not the dead queen should return from the land of shades. This is interesting. So they're going to have a wrestling match to bring her back from the dead. Wow, this is trippy stuff, folks. You know, I mean, when I mentioned that pipe earlier on, I didn't think there was anything suspect in it other than tobacco, you know. The hero was victorious, and Alcestis was restored to her husband. Apollo, after endowing Admetus with immortality, left his service and went to assist Poseidon, who had also been banished to Earth to build the walls of Troy. He's like, lads, what the hell's going on up there? Like, will you all behave yourselves? Look, just sit down, be quiet, and do what you're told. The god of music seated himself nearby and played such inspiring tunes that the stones moved into the place of their own accord. And you will get people, apparently rational people, telling you that that's how the great megalithic sites of Europe were built. That somebody played music and levitated the stones into place. I say to them simply one thing: let me see the exercise repeated, and then I'll believe it. Then, his term of exile being ended, he returned to Olympus and there resumed his wonted duties, WONTED, which I take it to mean the ones that he wants to do, not the ones that he doesn't want to do, the ones that he is wont to do. From his exalted position, he often cast loving glances down upon men whose life he had shared for a short time, whose hardships he had endured, and in answer to their prayers, he graciously extended his protection over them and delivered them from many evils. Among other deeds done for men was the slaying of the monster serpent Python, who guarded the sacred cave of the oracle at Delphi. Apologies. None had dared approach the monster, but Apollo fearlessly drew near and slew him with his golden shafts. Thenceforward, the oracle was especially associated with Apollo, who was there and elsewhere invoked as the Pythian Apollo. And now we're on to the story of Hyacinthus. Is everybody still comfortable? We are approaching 9 o'clock, but I don't think we actually got started reading till about 20 past 8. So I'll go on for a while if that's all right. Yeah, Maureen is reminding us of something that needs to be borne in mind here, I think, that the ancient Greeks and Romans drank a lot. Yeah. Patricia says the guy with the coolest ride gets the girl. Yeah, with the 57 Mustang or red Mustang or something like that. Yes. Joan wants to know who was the exiled god. The exiled god was Apollo, wasn't it? Or did I pick that up wrong? Oh no, I'm completely wrong. Never mind. Yeah, no, it was Apollo. Yeah, he had descended from Olympus and entered the service of Admetus, king of Thessaly. Yeah, it was Apollo. Joan. Although successful in war, Apollo was very unfortunate indeed in friendship. He had a great affection, maybe so just the fact he stained with blood all the time. People just didn't like approaching him. He had a great affection for a mortal youth called Hyacinthus, and one day they began a game of quoits. But they had not long played before Zephyrus, god of the west wind, passing by, saw them thus occupied. Jealous of Apollo, for he too was fond of Hyacinthus, Zephyrus blew Apollo's quoit aside so violently that it struck his playmate and felled him to the ground. Wow. So, if you're wondering what a quoit is, Quoit, a ring of iron, rope, or rubber thrown in a game to encircle thrown in a game to encircle or land as near as possible to an upright peg. Basically, rings. I don't know if you've ever played rings in a pub. It used to be a popular game in pubs in Ireland. Rings, quoits, and there's also in Britain. Somebody will know this. One of the viewers, I'm sure, will know this. The Devil's Quoits, and there are sort of stone circles or standing stones called quoits somewhere in England. I think the prehistory guys did a video about the Devil's Quoits. So there you are. Apologies. Vainly, Apollo strove to check the stream of blood which flowed from the ghastly wound. Hyacinthus was already beyond aid, and in a few seconds breathed his last in his friend's arms. To keep some reminder of the dead boy, Apollo changed the fallen blood drops into clusters of flowers, ever since called, from the youth's name, hyacinths. While Zephyrus, perceiving too late the fatal effect of his jealousy, hovered inconsolable over the sad spot, and tenderly caressed the dainty flowers which had sprung from his friend's lifeblood. This is from Keats' Zephyr Penitent, who now, ere Phoebus mounts the firmament, fondles the flower. The story of Cyparissus, Cyparissus. To divert his mind from the mournful fate of Hyacinthus, Apollo sought the company of Cyparissus, a clever young hunter. But this friendship was also doomed to a sad end, for Cyparissus, having accidentally killed Apollo's pet stag, grieved so sorely over this mischance that he pined away and finally died. Apollo then changed his lifeless clay into a cypress tree, which he declared should henceforth be used to shade the graves of those who had been greatly beloved through life. There you go. That's the creation story of the cypress tree. Salif says that those quoits are in Oxford. Good stuff. It's a henge and stone circle to the south of the village of Stanton Harcourt in Oxfordshire, England. Yes, indeed. Site is believed to be from the Neolithic. There you go. The story of Daphne. Is everybody still awake? The comments have slowed down awfully. I suspect people are falling asleep. Do we need more dad jokes? Oh, what was that one? Oh, there was one in the past week. It'll come back to me. One day, Apollo encountered in the forest a beautiful nymph called Daphne, daughter of the river god Peneus. He first tried to. Some people are waking up to say, "Yes, we're here. Yes, indeed." He first tried to approach her gently so as not to frighten her, but before he could reach her side, she fled, and he, forgetful of all else, pursued her flying footsteps. As he ran, he called aloud to Daphne, entreating her to pause, were it only for a moment, and promising to do her no harm. The terrified girl paid no heed to promises and entreaties, but sped on until her strength began to fail, and she perceived that, notwithstanding her utmost efforts, her pursuer was gaining upon her. Panting and trembling, The burr wheel says you're mesmerizing us. Yeah, yes, yeah, no, that's not what's happening. Let's be honest. Yes, yes, yes. I suspect some of you are quaffing some nice liqueurs, perhaps. Um, so what I really need to start doing more regularly is when I hear a joke, is to immediately share it um, to Facebook, because otherwise I forget it. I'm middle aged now, folks. Come on, there's enough stuff in there, and there tends to be not a lot of room for more. So, Anyway, the terrified girl paid no heed to promise or treaties, but sped on until her strength began to fail, and she perceived that, notwithstanding her utmost efforts, her pursuer was gaining upon her. Panting and trembling, she swerved aside and rushed down to the edge of her father's stream, calling out loudly for his protection. "Help me!" she cried. "Change my form, or let me sink into the earth." No sooner had she reached the water's edge than her feet seemed rooted to the ground. Green leaves sprouted from her hair and her hands, and a garment of grey bark covered her quivering body. Her father had answered her prayer by changing her into a laurel tree. Apollo, coming up just then with outstretched arms, clasped nothing but a rugged tree trunk. Oh, I know what it was. What's the difference between outlaws and in laws? Outlaws are wanted. Thank me later. Apollo, coming up just then with outstretched arms, clasped nothing but a rugged tree trunk. At first, he could not realize that the maiden had vanished from his sight forever. But when the truth dawned upon him, he declared that henceforth the laurel would be considered his favourite tree, and that prizes awarded to poets and musicians should consist of a wreath of its foliage. Althea Provost is in the house. Did somebody say snakes and Greek gods? Yes, they did, actually. But we had everything from spiders to jealous, a lot of jealous deities, to people being brought back from the dead. You know, the story of Apollo and Daphne was an illustration of the effect produced by the sun, Apollo, on the dew, Daphne. The sun is captivated by its beauty and longs to view it more closely. The dew, afraid of its ardent lover, flies, and when its fiery breath touches, it vanishes, leaving nothing but verdure in the same spot where, but a moment before, it sparkled in all its purity. This is from Shelley again. Climbing heaven's blue dome, I walk over the mountains and the waves, leaving my robe upon the ocean foam. My footsteps pave the clouds with fire. The caves are filled with my bright presence, and the air leaves the green earth. So sorry, hate that. Wrong word, Anthony. And the air leaves the green earth to my embraces bare. Where are we? 7 minutes. Well, we'll go on for another bit, I think. If a man walks into the fog, will he be missed? Yes, that's my kind of joke. Um, Doctor, your brain. Yes, I am reading this one. Your brain seems to have deleted all information about 80s music. Me. Yikes! What is the cure? Doctor, oh my god, it's worse than I thought. Love it. Brilliant. Maybe I'm the only one who finds that funny. I better just calm down a little bit. I'm not sure if the Cure had any sort of a great presence in America, so maybe the US audience might not appreciate that one. The Cure was a big band of the 80s. The ancients had many analogous stories, allegories of the sun and dew, among others, the oft quoted tale of Cephalus and Procris. Okay, I got a lull, and I got a smile from Eamon. Maybe that's a smile at my reaction to his joke, and that's it. That's all. And look, Brendan Byrne. Now look what you lot started. Don't encourage. Hugh Godern is cracking up. Well, I'm glad. Good. That's always good. Rosemary loves The Cure. So Katie Brogan loved, past tense, The Cure. Are The Cure still a thing? Kathy May has heard of them in the US. Yes, yes, yes. There you go. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you, Sean Black, and adieu indeed. Um, Cephalus was a hunter who fell in love with and married one of the nymphs of Artemis, Procris, Procris. She brought him as dowry a hunting dog, Lela, Lelaps, and a javelin warranted never to miss its mark. The newly married pair were perfectly happy, but their content was viewed with great displeasure by Eos (Aurora), goddess of the dawn, who had previously tried, but without success, to win Cephalus's affections, and who now resolved to put an end to the happiness she envied. So this is a theme, isn't it, in mythology? We come across this theme in Irish mythology, the jealous lover or the jealous stepmother, etc., etc. Jealousy being sort of one of those human emotions that tends to enter um, the affairs, affairs, perhaps a bad word, and affections of people, and affect us. All day long, Cephalus hunted in the forest, and when the evening shadows began to fall, returned to his home and his wife. Her marriage gifts proved invaluable, as Lelaps was swift of foot and tireless in the chase. One day, to test his powers, the gods from Olympus watched him course a fox, a special creation of theirs, and so well were both animals matched in speed and endurance that the chase bade fair to end only with the death of one or both of the participants. The gods, in their admiration for the fine run, declared the animals deserved to be remembered forever, and changed them into statues which retained all the spirited action of the living creatures. In the warm season, when the sun became oppressively hot, Cephalus was wont to rest during the noon hour in some shady spot. And as if shady, not that kind of shady, shaded from the sun. And as he flung himself down, the shady also meaning sleazy for those who may not. Am I lecturing now? Am I mansplaining? I better stop. And as he flung himself down upon the short grass, he often called for a breeze, bidding it cool his heated brow. Come, sweet air, he would say. Come, sweet goddess of the breeze, come to me. Eos heard him and was fully aware that he merely addressed the passing wind. Nevertheless, she sought Procris and told her that her husband was faithless and paid court to a fair maid who daily met him at noonday in the forest solitudes. Procris, blinded by sudden jealousy, gave credit to the false story and immediately resolved to follow her husband. Hell hath no fury and all of that. The morning had well nigh passed when Cephalus came to his usual resort, near which Procris was concealed. Sweet air, oh come, the hunter cried, and Procris, with a low moan, sank fainting on the ground. Under the mistaken impression that some wild beast was lurking there ready to pounce upon him, Cephalus cast his unerring javelin into the very midst of the thicket and pierced the heart of his wife. She died in his arms, and the little woodland folk, the dryads and the fauns, mourned over her. Wow, very sad. Mythical mansplaining. Yeah, let's not do that. Who is Simon? Somebody is saying Simon has. Salav is saying Simon. Great to see you popping in. I don't see a Simon. So Simon, whoever you are, welcome. Followed you. And one more, I think, and then we call it. Or maybe this one's a short one, so maybe one and a half more or two more. The story of Clytie, Clytie, Clytie. Apollo's principal duty was to drive the sun chariot. You don't want to stop doing that. Day after day he rode the azure sky, nor paused on his way till he reached the golden boat awaiting him at the end of his long day's journey to bear him in safety back to his eastern palace. Yes, a early conception of sun deities and how they made the sun rise and set. Pardon me, common to many prehistoric or ancient cultures. Apologies. A fair young maiden called Clytie watched Apollo's daily journey with strange intentness. And from the moment when he left his palace in the morning until he came to the far western sea in the evening, she followed his course with loving eyes, thought of the golden-haired god, and longed for his love. But in spite of all this fervour, she never won favour in Apollo's eyes, and languished until the gods, in pity, changed her into a sunflower. Even in this altered guise, Clytie could not forget the object of her love, and now, a fit emblem of constancy, she still follows with upturned face the glowing orb in its daily journey across the sky. And yes, Helen is drawing our attention to something recently tweeted by a former keeper of antiquities at the Irish, the National Museum of Ireland, in relation to a carving at Knowth, suggesting it was the solar boat. That's it. What we've got here are sort of, creation myths, the creation stories relating to certain trees and plants. Apollo and Midas. We'll finish on Midas. I hope. Yes, this is a one-pager. Apollo, like his fellow gods, seems to have resembled mortal men in vanity and maliciousness. He was particularly jealous of his reputation as a musician, and took on one occasion a cruel revenge upon a piper called Marsyas, who had rashly challenged him to a musical contest. On another occasion, Midas, king of Phrygia, was so imprudent as to maintain that Pan, sorry, I just have to turn the page, the goat god, was a better musician than Apollo, and the sun god avenged himself by causing long, shaggy ass's ears to grow on either side of the king's head. Who was the one in Irish myth who grew ass's ears? Again, it's in there. It's in the filing system somewhere. And this is from Swift. The god of wit, to show his grudge, clapped ass's ears upon the judge, a goodly pair, erect and wide, which he could neither gild nor hide. Greatly dismayed by these new ornaments, Midas, I was going to say Midas, I was thinking of our recent discussion about Brie Lay and Midas, which is spelled the same way, Midas. And speaking of which, Anne Geraghty Smith pops up on the screen. Wow, what a coincidence. Yes, indeed. Midas retreated into his own room and sent in hot haste for his barber, who, after having been sworn to secrecy, was admitted and bidden to fashion a huge wig which would hide the deformity from the eyes of the king's subject. Lowry, yeah, Lowry, is it Lowry Longshock, Lowry Longshock or something like that? Yes, 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 yes. You're right, and I think Lowry Longshock. Let me just check. This is Wikipedia. I hate just. Well, it's not that I hate Wikipedia, but it's not a good. It's not. It's not a endable. Yeah, Lowry horse's ears. The story is told, similar to a legend of the Greek king Midas, that Lowry had horse's ears, something he was concerned to keep quiet. He had his hair cut once a year, and the barber who was chosen by lot was immediately put to death. A widow, hearing that her only son had been chosen to cut the king's hair, begged the king not to kill him, and he agreed so long as the barber kept his secret. The burden of the secret was so heavy that the barber fell ill. A druid advised him to go to a crossroads and tell his secret to the first tree he came to, and he would be relieved of his burden and be well again. He told the secret to a large willow. Soon after this, however, Crafne broke his harp and made a new one out of the very willow the barber had told his secret to. Whenever he played it, the harp sang, Lowry Lork has horse's ears. Lowry repented of all the barbers he had put to death and admitted his secret. Wow, well, there you go. That sounds like it's maybe, just maybe, we have to admit from time to time that maybe, just maybe, some of the stories are based indeed on classical mythology. But maybe, I don't know, maybe it's the other way around. There you go, Anne Geraghty Smith. Brilliant stuff. Yes, yes, yes. Greatly dismayed by these new blah 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 blah. The barber acquitted himself, and before he was allowed to do this, was again charged not to reveal the secret under the penalty of immediate death. But a secret is difficult to keep, and this one of the king's long ears preyed upon the poor barber's spirits, so that, incapable of enduring silence longer, he sallied out into a field, dug a deep hole, and shouted down into the bosom of the earth, King Midas wears these eyes behind them, these such asses' ears. That's from Horace. Unspeakably relieved, don't ask, because part of that's in brackets and it doesn't make sense. King Midas wears, bracket, these eyes beheld them, these, close brackets, such asses' ears. Ah, I get it now. Okay. Unspeakably relieved by this performance, the barber returned home. Time passed. Reeds grew over the hole, and as they bent before the wind which rustled through the leaves, they were heard to murmur, a little bit like the harp strings, Midas, King Midas, has ass's ears. And all who passed were caught, all who passed by caught the whisper and noised it abroad, so that the secret became general knowledge. Don't you just love it? Yes. So who robbed from who, folks? Let's have that discussion. Who robbed from who? Did Midas? Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Which came first, Midas or Lowry Longshock? Answers on a postcard to We Don't Care at Oblivious Avenue in Apathy Town. We do care. So many comments on the Michael Quirk post, the photographs. Sharon says, I had the great good fortune to meet Mr. Quirk many years ago while visiting Ireland and treasure the improvised carving he made on the spot for me, all while telling us great stories. So literally everybody goes to the shop seems to get this little piece, which is just so wonderful, you know. Anyway, hope to have time to create the film edit, which is now the most onerous part of the task now, the filming bit done. Here's a gas coincidence, says Anne Geraghty Smith. I played bottom in our A Midsummer Night's Dream, Ass's Ears and all. We used the Cure music. Brilliant. That is an interesting coincidence. Fascinating stuff. Adrian is saying, have a good day. I'm not gone yet. If you're going, then good luck. But, we'll hang on for a few minutes. I'm only joking. Yes. Karma says, Patricia, yes, indeed. Desiree does indeed pop in, as she said she would earlier on the Facebook post, that she was on a trail and may not be able to pop in until the end. Well, there you go. Well, you're very welcome, Desiree. We've had an interesting, hopefully, well, I have, and maybe everyone else is bored. There were a couple of dad jokes in there, some dark humor about spiders' legs, and somebody called Arachne who gets the joke, weaving a web and all that. I hope you're in good form. Kathy May has gone back to work after her lunch break has ended. Kathy May, always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. Brendan says, the nights never seem as dark when we are gathered around a storyteller. Great stuff. Yes, indeed. Yeah, maybe at some point we'll have to introduce this to Michael, but maybe at some point we'll do a Mythical Ireland tour to Sligo and we'll pop into Michael Quirk and you can all just forget about me and just put me in the corner. This man puts me in the shade. Love that story, says Adrian. Brilliant stuff. Thank you, Sandra. Glad you enjoyed yourself. Absolutely. Yes, indeed. Always a pleasure. Anne McCallum thought it was a brilliant episode. Yes, I hope it was brilliant, regardless of the dad jokes. And Helen said, wonderful evening, brilliant, good stuff. Gordon, great stream. Thanks. I'll be in touch, Gordon. No problem. And thank you indeed for joining us. Always a pleasure. It's so very late, says Elaine Dent, Lingenfelter. I'm so very late. Yes, indeed. In fact, are you only joining us now? An hour and 23 minutes later. Oh, what is going on at all? Well, what you can do, Elaine, is there's no problem. As soon as this finishes, the replay will be available. So you can just watch it from the start and you'll be sort of recently involved, Thank you for the wonderful tale, says Master Dex. Yeah, I'm just reading, but I do add, I hope, some funny, witty embellishments. And I'm glad you all enjoyed it. Soon, I'm finally going to do something that I've been talking about for a while, and that is the Morgan Llewellyn conversation was never released publicly, has only ever been seen by patrons. So what I'm going to do sometime in the next week or so is I'm going to have a watch party where we will actually watch that. I'll do it through this. I'll be able to play it and make some comments on it if necessary. If not, just play it. So that would be one to watch. That was what I'm intending to do with some of the sort of films that are made. Some of the conversations is that, you know, patrons first, and then eventually for public viewing. So this one was filmed last summer. The very famous best-selling author of mostly fiction, but not entirely fiction, fiction based on Irish mythology and history, Morgan Llewellyn, author of Lion of Ireland, Bard, and many others, something like 25 or 30 works. I had a lovely conversation with Morgan last year, which is still accessible to Mythical Ireland patrons at patreon.com/Mythical Ireland, which is that address there. And I'm going to make that public with a watch party sometime soon. Erica is saying, always enjoy these discussions. Thanks, Anthony, and to Erica in Ipswich. Thanks for joining us, Erica. I don't think I said hello to you earlier. Yeah, go gently, as Mandy says. Absolutely. Have a great evening, afternoon / morning. Wherever you are in the world, do come back next week. Keep an eye on the social media for more announcements. Most importantly, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. The Mythical Ireland YouTube channel is the slowest growing of all the channels, you know. Although Twitter isn't far behind, but I'm not a good tweeter. I don't think I'm funny enough in my tweets. It's not like I don't have a sense of humor or anything. YouTube just seems to be very slow. I've had the channel for about 15 years, and it's got 17,500 subscribers. And I've seen sort of similarly themed channels go up to 50,000 and 100,000. I don't understand what the difficulty is. But anyway, if you're watching on YouTube, do please subscribe to the channel. And that's one of the things I should be doing every time on a live stream, is reminding you to do that. Bill and I, says Anne, thoroughly enjoyed spending a couple of hours with Morgan at the Hill of Tara. Oh, yes, indeed. She was there at our gathering. What an honor, you know. TikTok next. I don't know. One thing that I really liked about Michael Quirk is he doesn't. I don't think he has what some of you might call a cell phone, or what we call a mobile phone or a smartphone, you know. And there's no such thing as social media. It's just for him, and I think he's the better for it, to be honest. You know. Anyway, that's where we're going to leave it for tonight. Yeah. I'm just quickly trying to remember if there's anything else coming up that I need to mention. I don't think there is in the immediate week coming forward. Thank you, Tarini. But we'll see you all very soon. If not, between now and then, this time next week, for the next installment, the next edition, the next episode of Live Irish Myths. It's been a pleasure, as always, and an honor to share this time with you, my friends, from around the world. And it's one that I hold dear, and that I hope to be able to continue long into the future. In the meantime, I wish you a good day or a good night. In Irish, I always say "Ichawak Holosov," which means good night, sound sleep. If it's morning for you, or especially if you're driving a vehicle, definitely don't go to sleep. But when you do, Kolusov, Slán go fóill, which means bye for now. And the most important one of all is Tog go bugé. Take it easy.